Hey everyone, welcome to How to Write Emails in English. Today we're diving into a super important skill for anyone learning English, writing effective emails.
Indeed, whether it's for work, study, or just connecting with friends, mastering email etiquette in English is invaluable. We'll be looking at how to craft clear, appropriate messages for intermediate learners.
So let's dive straight into choosing the right greeting for your emails. This is actually more important than many people realize because it sets the whole tone for your message right from the start.
Absolutely. Getting the greeting wrong can make your emails seem either too casual or stiff. For very formal situations, like writing to someone you don't know well or to a professor or a company executive, you'll want to use Dear Mr., Mrs., Dr., last name. For instance, Dear Miss Smith or Dear Professor Jones. This is always safe and professional.
Exactly. And if you don't know the person's name or you're writing to a department, you might use Dear Sir or Madam, or To Whom It May Concern, although those are a bit old-fashioned now. A more modern formal approach could be Dear Hiring Manager or Dear Support Team.
Indeed. Moving to informal greetings, if you're writing to a colleague, someone you've met before, or someone you have an established rapport with, hi first name or hello first name is perfectly acceptable. For example, hi John or hello Sarah.
And if you're sending an email to a group of people, like your project team, Hello Everyone or Hi Team works perfectly. The key is always to consider your relationship with the recipient and the purpose of your email. You want to match the greeting to the situation. All right, after the greeting, the next crucial step is selecting the right level of formality for your email's body. It truly sets the entire tone, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Being too casual with a superior or overly formal with a close colleague can really miscommunicate. Always align your language with your recipient and the email's objective.
Absolutely. Let's look at vocabulary first. Formally, you might request something, but informally, you'd simply ask for it. Similarly, inform versus tell. It completely shifts the vibe.
Indeed, sentence structure also differs. Formal emails often employ more complex, indirect phrasing. For example, instead of send the report, use could you please send me the report for a formal request.
And contractions. Generally avoid them in formal writing. So it's I am, not I'm. And it is rather than it's. Informal emails, though, welcome contractions as they sound natural.
Precisely. Also, many phrasal verbs are more informal. Find out works casually, but ascertain is better formally. Understanding this distinction will significantly enhance your emails.
All right, let's dive into some really useful phrases that can make your emails much clearer and more professional. These are the kinds of building blocks you'll use over and over again.
Indeed, starting with expressing your intent, a very common and very effective formal phrase is, I am writing to inquire about, or I am writing to request. It immediately tells the recipient the purpose of your email.
Yes, and for something a little less formal, you might say, I'm just getting in touch about, or I wanted to ask about. These are great for when you know the person better. Another good one for follow ups is following up on our conversation from last week.
Precisely. And when you are attaching documents, a very clear and standard phrase is, please find attached, or I have attached. For a slightly more modern and perhaps friendlier tone, you could say, I've included the document you requested.
Oh, that's a good point. And for general pleasantries or setting a positive tone, phrases like, hope you're having a good week, or I hope this email finds you well, are always lovely additions. They show a bit of warmth, especially if it's not a super urgent or purely transactional email.
Absolutely. Even a simple thank you for your prompt response or I appreciate your help with this can make a significant difference in the overall tone of your communication. These phrases really help to oil the wheels of professional interaction.
Okay, so moving on from general phrases, let's tackle something super important in emails, making polite requests and sincere apologies. This is where you really show your communication skills.
Absolutely. Politeness is key, especially in professional or even semi formal contexts. For requests, instead of a direct, send me the report, which can sound a bit demanding, we have much softer options.
Exactly. A great one is, could you please? For example, could you please send me the latest sales report? Or if you want to be even more formal and show deep appreciation if they fulfill it, try, I would be grateful if you could.
Yes, I would be grateful if you could provide the information by end of day. That's very polite and effective. It shows respect for their time and effort. Now, apologies are just as crucial. If you've made a mistake or caused an inconvenience, you need to address it clearly and sincerely.
Right. I apologize for is a standard and effective way to start. I apologize for the delay in my response. Or for something a bit more formal or serious, my sincere apologies for any inconvenience this may have caused.
Both are excellent. The key is to be genuine and, if possible, offer a solution or explain what you're doing to prevent it from happening again, though the apology itself is the primary step.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about what to do, but let's shift gears a bit and discuss some common mistakes non native speakers often make when writing emails in English. This can be super helpful for avoiding awkward situations.
Indeed, one of the most frequent errors I see is direct translation from a learner's native language. While it might seem like a good idea, it often leads to unnaturally sounding English and can sometimes even change the meaning entirely. For example, literally translating a phrase like, I want to ask you a question, might sound a bit blunt. I'd like to inquire about is much more polite and standard.
Exactly. It's really about understanding the nuance of English phrasing rather than a word for word swap. Another big one is inappropriate formality. Sometimes learners will be too formal in an informal setting or too informal in a professional context, using yours truly to a boss you barely know or hey dude to a potential client just doesn't quite fit the tone.
Precisely. And that leads nicely into the incorrect usage of idioms or phrasal verbs. English is full of them, and while it's great to try and incorporate them, using them incorrectly can be very confusing for the reader. For instance, to pull someone's leg means to joke with them, not literally to grab their leg.
Right, or using a phrasal verb like put off when you mean to postpone, but applying it in a context where put off might mean to discourage someone. My advice would be if you're unsure about an idiom or phrasal verb, it's always safer to use a more direct, simpler word or phrase that you're confident in. Always prioritize clarity over trying to sound overly sophisticated.
A very sensible tip. And always proofread. A fresh pair of eyes, even your own after a short break, can catch those small errors.
All right, we've covered a lot today. To wrap things up, let's talk about how to professionally sign off your emails. It's the last impression you make.
Indeed, for formal emails, sincerely is a very safe and classic choice. Best regards or kind regards also work well across many contexts, balancing professionalism with a touch of warmth.
And for less formal or internal communications, a simple thanks or cheers can be perfectly acceptable, especially if you're thanking someone or have an ongoing conversation. It's about matching the tone.
Precisely. The key takeaway from today is practice. The more you write, the more natural it will become.
Absolutely. So go forth and write those brilliant emails. Thank you so much for joining us on how to write emails in English. We hope it's been helpful.